Imagine trekking through a vast arid desert. All around you are shallow lines etched into the reddish-brown earth, seemingly random, almost like ancient footpaths leading nowhere. For centuries, this is all the people of the Nazca region in Peru saw. But then, in the early 1920s, something incredible happened. Commercial flights began crossing this desolate landscape, and as pilots and passengers gazed out their windows, they saw something that defied belief. Those random lines on the ground suddenly snapped into focus, revealing a breathtaking tapestry of enormous figures. Monkeys with spiraling tails, spiders with impossibly long legs, hummingbirds with wingspans wider than a football field, and perfectly straight lines stretching for miles, converging in ways that made no sense from the ground. This was the moment the modern world rediscovered the Nazca Lines, and it was a discovery that changed everything. The sheer scale was mind-boggling. Some of these geoglyphs, as they're called, are over 1,000 feet long. To create them, the Nazca people, who thrived between 100 BCE and 800 CE, carefully removed the dark, iron oxide-coated pebbles from the desert floor to expose the lighter-colored soil beneath. It was a simple technique, but the precision and artistry were anything but. How did they maintain such perfect proportions and straight lines over such vast distances without an aerial viewpoint? This is where the real mystery begins. Why would an ancient civilization invest so much time and effort into creating colossal artworks that could only be fully appreciated from the sky? They didn't have airplanes. They didn't have satellites. Yet they designed hundreds of figures in geometric patterns across nearly 200 square miles of desert, all oriented for a heavenly audience. The first researchers were stumped. The initial reaction was a mix of awe and disbelief. How was this possible? And more importantly, why? The discovery didn't just present an archaeological puzzle. It challenged our very understanding of what ancient cultures were capable of. It was as if they had left a message, but the intended recipient was someone or something looking down from above. One of the earliest and most famous researchers was Paul Kosok, an American historian who flew over the lines in 1941. He famously dubbed the Nazca Desert the largest astronomy book in the world. He noticed that some lines seemed to align with the sun's position during the winter and summer solstices, suggesting a celestial or calendrical purpose. It wasn't just art. It was a functional astronomical map. This theory was expanded upon by his assistant, a German mathematician and archaeologist named Maria Reich. For over 50 years, Maria dedicated her life to the Nazca Lines. She lived in the desert, meticulously mapping, cleaning, and protecting the fragile etchings. She became known as the Lady of the Lines. Reich believed the figures corresponded to constellations, and the lines acted as pointers to significant stars and celestial events. For her, the giant spider might represent the constellation Orion, and the monkey might align with the Pleiades. The Nazca people, she argued, used these massive drawings to track seasons, predict planting and harvesting times, and organize their society around the cosmic clock. But the astronomical calendar theory doesn't explain everything. What about the animal figures? Why create a massive hummingbird or a whale in the middle of the desert to mark a solstice? This led to another compelling theory. The lines were connected to water rituals. The Nazca Desert is one of the driest places on Earth. Water was, and still is, the most precious resource. Archaeologists have discovered that many of the lines and figures are located near or point towards sources of water, like underground aquifers or rivers flowing down from the Andes Mountains. Some researchers propose that the lines were sacred pathways. The Nazca people would walk along these lines in ceremonial processions, perhaps praying for rain or honoring their gods. The animal figures could represent powerful deities or spirits associated with water and fertility. From this perspective, the lines weren't meant to be seen from above by humans at all. They were created as offerings or messages to the gods who resided in the sky. By carving these immense figures into the land, the Nazca people were directly communicating with the divine, pleading for the life-giving water their civilization depended on. This idea gains traction when you consider the Nazca's spiritual beliefs. Like many ancient cultures, their world was filled with powerful deities of the sky, earth, and underworld. Creating these enormous effigies could have been their way of getting the gods' attention, a grand gesture of devotion. The figures themselves, the killer whale, the condor, the lizard were all potent symbols in Andean mythology, creatures believed to hold power over the natural world. Then things take a turn towards the more speculative. In the late 1960s, a writer named Erich von Däniken published Chariots of the Gods. a book that captured the public's imagination. He proposed a radical idea. The Nazca Lines were ancient runways for extraterrestrial spacecraft. The long straight lines, he argued, were landing strips for alien visitors, and the figures were created either by the aliens themselves or by the Nazca people to welcome back their sky gods. While this theory has been widely debunked by the scientific community, it highlights just how deeply the mystery of the Nazca Lines resonates. The sheer improbability of their construction fuels fantastic ideas. There's no evidence of advanced technology or alien contact, and the lines themselves are too shallow and the ground too soft to support any kind of aircraft landing. But the question remains powerful. If not for aliens, then who were they for? More recent research combines elements of all these theories. Some scientists now believe the lines served multiple purposes. They could have been part of a complex ritual system that involved astronomy, water worship, and ancestor veneration. Different figures and lines might have been used by different clans or family groups for specific ceremonies at different times of the year. Think of it like a massive multi-purpose community center built into the desert floor. One area might be for tracking the solstice, another for water rituals, and a third for honoring a specific animal deity. The people wouldn't have seen the whole picture at once, but they would have known the sacred meaning of the path they were walking. The act of creating and walking the lines was the important part, a physical expression of their connection to the cosmos, the land, and the divine. Let's also consider another fascinating possibility. Some anthropologists suggest the Nazca shamans, spiritual leaders, may have used hallucinogenic plants, like the San Pedro cactus, to induce altered states of consciousness. In these visionary states, they might have experienced a sensation of flying or an out-of-body experience, allowing them to see the world from above. The designs, then, could be representations of what they saw in their visions, brought to life on the desert floor. This theory connects the spiritual and practical, suggesting the designs were conceived from a perspective that wasn't physically achievable but was accessible through ritual. The preservation of the Nazca Lines is another marvel. The combination of the dry, stable climate, the lack of wind, and the remote location has kept these delicate drawings intact for nearly 2,000 years. But today, they face new threats from climate change, illegal mining, and even careless tourists. The work started by Maria Reich to protect them is more important than ever. So, after all this investigation, what's the answer? Why create something only visible from above? The truth is, there probably isn't a single answer. The Nazca Lines were likely a fusion of science, art, and religion. They were a calendar, a map, a temple, and a message to the gods, all rolled into one. They represent a worldview where the earth and the sky were not separate, but intricately connected. The Nazca people weren't just drawing on the land. They were weaving their beliefs into the very fabric of the landscape. They were creating a sacred space that mirrored the heavens and channeled the forces of nature. The fact that we can now see these designs from airplanes and satellites is a modern coincidence. But the original audience was never meant to be us. The audience was the sun, the stars, and the powerful gods who controlled the rain. The rediscovery of the Nazca Lines from the air didn't just give us an archaeological mystery. It gave us a profound glimpse into the mind of an ancient culture, showing us a people who thought on a scale so grand it reached for the heavens. And that is a legacy that continues to inspire awe and wonder to this day. Stretching across the desolate plains of southern Peru lies one of history's greatest enigmas, the Nazca Lines. From the sky, they are breathtaking. Hundreds of gigantic figures, from hummingbirds to monkeys, etched into the desert floor with stunning precision. But how? How did a civilization over 2,000 years ago create these massive geoglyphs, perfectly proportioned, without ever seeing them from above? This is the mystery we're exploring today. A puzzle of sand, stone, and human ingenuity that continues to captivate the world. To understand the how, we first need to understand the canvas. The Nazca Desert is one of the driest places on Earth. The ground is covered by a layer of dark reddish-brown pebbles, oxidized by the desert sun. But just a few inches beneath this dark varnish lies a completely different world, a layer of light-colored, sandy soil. The secret to creating the Nazca Lines was deceptively simple. The Nazca people would carefully remove the dark surface stones, exposing the lighter earth underneath. This created a stark, lasting contrast. It was like drawing on a massive, natural sketch pad. The lines themselves are not very deep, usually only about 4 to 6 inches. By clearing away the dark desert pavement, they revealed the pale ground, creating negative images that are brilliantly visible from a distance, and especially from the air. This technique, known as subtractive construction, was laborious but effective, turning the desert floor into a monumental gallery of art. So they had a method. But how have these delicate drawings survived for nearly 2,000 years? The answer lies in the region's unique and stable climate. The Nazca Plain is incredibly arid, receiving less than an inch of rain per year. This extreme dryness prevents water erosion from washing the lines away. Furthermore, the ground itself helps protect the geoglyphs. The surface stones absorb the sun's heat during the day, creating a cushion of warm air near the ground. This cushion acts as a buffer against the wind, preventing the powerful desert gusts from eroding the shallow trenches. It's a perfect natural preservation system. The lack of wind and rain means there's almost nothing to disturb the lines. They'd been sitting there, virtually untouched by time, just as their creators left them, waiting for us to discover their secrets. It's a combination of human effort and a freak of nature that has allowed this ancient wonder to endure through the millennia. Now let's talk about the tools and the sheer scale of this operation. When archaeologists excavated the sites, they found no evidence of complex machinery. Instead, they discovered simple tools: wooden stakes, ropes, and ceramic pots. It's believed the Nazca people used these basic instruments to measure and lay out their designs. They would likely plant stakes at key points and use long ropes to create straight lines and perfect arcs. Think about it, drawing a perfectly straight line that stretches for miles with just sticks and string. Or creating a spiral that is geometrically flawless. The scale is mind-boggling. Some of the lines run uninterrupted for over 5 miles. The figures are equally immense. The famous hummingbird measures over 300 feet long. The condor has a wingspan of 440 feet. That's larger than a modern jumbo jet. How could they manage this incredible precision over such vast distances using only the most rudimentary tools? It's a testament to their mastery of geometry and measurement. The contrast between the simplicity of their tools and the complexity and enormous size of their creations is one of the most baffling aspects of the Nazca Lines. It's like building a skyscraper with a hammer and a chisel. This level of precision on such a massive scale couldn't have been accidental. It implies a high degree of planning, coordination, and a shared vision. Before a single stone was moved, there must have been a blueprint. Archaeologists believe the Nazca artists first created smaller-scale models or drawings of the figures. These small-scale plans, perhaps sketched on pottery or textiles, would have acted as a guide. Then, using a system of grids and ratios, they could scale up these small designs to their monumental proportions on the desert floor. This process would have required skilled surveyors, planners, and a large, organized workforce. Imagine the scene: teams of people working together under the hot desert sun, each with a specific task. Some clearing stones, others measuring distances, and overseers directing the entire operation from strategic points. It wasn't just art. It was a massive community project, an expression of collective purpose. The ability to coordinate hundreds of people to execute a single, colossal design speaks volumes about the sophistication of Nazca society. They were not just primitive artists. They were brilliant engineers and project managers. But even with all this understanding, we arrive back at the ultimate unanswered question. How did they know what it would look like? All their planning, their grids, their small-scale models, none of it explains how they could be so sure of the final image's accuracy without an aerial perspective. Standing on the ground, the lines are often barely visible. They're just shallow trenches in the earth. You can walk right across one of the giant figures without even realizing it's there. The full image, the breathtaking form of the hummingbird or the spider, only reveals itself from high above. Did they have a way of getting airborne? Some fringe theories suggest hot air balloons, but there's no concrete evidence for this. Or was their understanding of geometry and projection so advanced that they could mentally visualize the final product with perfect clarity? Could they mathematically project a small drawing onto a vast, uneven landscape and get it right every single time? It seems almost superhuman. This is the heart of the Nazca mystery. It challenges our assumptions about the capabilities of ancient peoples. So what was the purpose of these colossal drawings? Were they astronomical calendars pointing to the solstice or specific stars? Were they pathways for religious processions, designed to be walked upon during sacred rituals? Or were they giant offerings to the gods in the sky, a plea for water in an unforgiving desert? The truth is, we don't know for sure. Each theory offers a piece of the puzzle, but none provides a complete picture. The Nazca people left behind no written language, only these silent, enigmatic figures in the sand. They are a message across time that we are still trying to decipher. The Nazca Lines remain a powerful symbol of human creativity and mystery. They are a reminder that ancient civilizations possess knowledge and skills that can still baffle us today. Standing on the edge of the Nazca Plateau, looking out over a landscape carved with giants, you can't help but feel a sense of awe. Awe for the people who created them, for the vision they shared, and for the enduring mystery they left for us to ponder. The lines are more than just drawings in the dirt. They are a testament to the boundless potential of the human imagination. Imagine a place so vast, so mysterious, that its greatest secrets are hidden in plain sight, etched into the very fabric of the earth. We're heading to the arid coastal plains of Peru, a place that holds one of humanity's most breathtaking and baffling creations. The Nazca Lines are not just random doodles in the dirt. They are colossal geoglyphs, giant drawings so massive you can only truly appreciate them from the sky. For centuries, they lay unnoticed by the wider world, their secrets guarded by the desert itself. Who created them? Why? And what messages were they trying to send? Today, we're diving deep into the enigma of the Nazca Lines, exploring the most famous figures like the monkey, the spider, and the hummingbird, and trying to decode the symbols of a lost mind. So, buckle up, because this journey will challenge everything you think you know about ancient civilizations. Before we get to the giant animals and mysterious shapes, let's set the stage. Who were the Nazca people? Flourishing between 100 BCE and 800 CE, they were a pre-Incan culture that thrived in this incredibly dry region. You might think a desert is a tough place to build a society, and you'd be right. Water was everything. The Nazca were master engineers, creating sophisticated underground aqueducts called puquios to tap into subterranean water sources. This ingenuity allowed them to farm, support a growing population, and develop a rich, complex culture. They were skilled potters, creating vibrant, multicolored ceramics that give us clues about their daily life, their beliefs, and the world around them. But their most famous legacy by far is the one they carved into the desert floor. Using a deceptively simple technique, they removed the reddish-brown, iron oxide-coated pebbles that cover the surface of the desert, revealing the lighter-colored earth underneath. The result? A stunning contrast that has survived for nearly 2 millennia, thanks to the region's dry, windless, and stable climate. Now, let's take a flight over the Pampa Colorada, the Red Plain, where these wonders are located. As we ascend, the lines begin to form coherent shapes. There are over 800 straight lines, some stretching for miles with incredible precision. There are also over 300 geometric figures, like triangles, trapezoids, and spirals. But the real stars of the show are the biomorphs, the giant animal and plant figures. There are around 70 of them, and they are spectacular. Let's start with one of the most iconic, the monkey. This figure is about 300 feet long and is depicted with a distinctive spiraling tail. It's not just any monkey. Some researchers have pointed out its striking resemblance to species found deep within the Amazon rainforest, hundreds of miles away. This suggests the Nazca people had contact with, or knowledge of, distant ecosystems. The monkey's 5 fingers on one hand and 4 on the other might also hold some symbolic meaning, perhaps related to astronomical calculations or a forgotten myth. Next up, the spider. This one is truly a masterpiece of precision. Located on the edge of a large trapezoid, the spider is about 150 feet long. What's absolutely mind-blowing about this figure is its biological accuracy. For years, people just saw it as a spider. But in the 1980s, arachnologists identified it as a member of the rare genus Riccinulae, a tiny, almost blind spider found only in the most remote, inaccessible parts of the Amazon jungle. How could the Nazca have known about this creature in such detail? Not only that, but they accurately depicted the spider's reproductive organ, located on the end of its right leg, a detail invisible to the naked eye. This incredible accuracy has fueled all sorts of theories, from the Nazca having supervision to, yes, even ancient astronaut theories. While we don't have a definitive answer, it points to a level of observation and knowledge that is simply astounding. Let's fly over to another crowd favorite, the hummingbird. This elegant figure measures over 300 feet from beak to tail. Its long, slender beak is a classic hummingbird feature, and its wings are outstretched as if in mid-flight. In many Andean cultures, hummingbirds were sacred. They were seen as messengers between the physical world and the spiritual realm. Their incredible energy and ability to hover were seen as divine. For the Nazca, who depended on water, the hummingbird might have been a powerful symbol of life and fertility. Its appearance could have signaled the arrival of water and the start of a flourishing season. The Nazca artists captured the essence of this bird perfectly, a tiny energetic creature immortalized on a gigantic scale. But the menagerie doesn't stop there. There's the majestic condor, a symbol of power and health, with a wingspan of over 400 feet. There's a whale, a dog, a lizard, which was unfortunately bisected by the Pan American Highway in the 1930s. And then there are the humanoid figures. The most famous is often called the astronaut. Found on a hillside, this 100-foot-tall figure with large, round eyes seems to be waving. This particular figure has really captured the public imagination and is a favorite among ancient astronaut theorists. They argue it depicts an extraterrestrial visitor, the being for whom all the lines were made. But most archaeologists offer a more grounded explanation. They see it as a shaman or a deity, perhaps a figure with a ritual mask or headdress, a common motif in Nazca pottery. This brings us to the billion-dollar question: why? Why go to all this trouble to create drawings so large you can't even see them from the ground? This is where the real mystery lies, and researchers are still debating the answer. One of the earliest and most prominent theories, proposed by German mathematician Maria Reich, who dedicated her life to studying and preserving the lines, is that they formed a massive astronomical calendar. She believed the lines were aligned with the sun, moon, and stars, tracking solstices, equinoxes, and other celestial events. This would have been crucial for an agricultural society, helping them determine the best times for planting and harvesting. While some alignments have been found, many lines don't seem to point to anything significant, so the purely astronomical theory doesn't explain everything. Another compelling theory revolves around water and ritual. As we mentioned, water was the most precious resource for the Nazca. Some scholars, like Johann Reinhard, argue that the lines were sacred pathways. People would walk along them in ritual processions, praying for water and fertility. The animal figures weren't just pictures. They were symbols of the deities or spirits believed to control the natural world. The spider might be linked to rain, the monkey to fertility, and the hummingbird to life itself. The huge trapezoids might point towards sources of water in the mountains. In this view, the Nazca Plain was a giant, open-air temple where the entire community could participate in rituals to appease the gods and ensure their survival. This would also explain why the figures are so large. They weren't meant for human eyes on the ground, but for the gods looking down from the sky. Think about it from their perspective. Living in a harsh desert, your entire existence depends on the whims of nature. It makes perfect sense that your religion, your art, and your biggest public works projects would all be focused on influencing those powerful, unseen forces. The act of creating the lines, the communal effort involved, would have been a powerful ritual in itself, a testament of faith to the sky gods. The lines were not just a message. They were a form of active prayer, a physical connection between the earth and the heavens. So where does that leave us? Are the Nazca Lines an astronomical calendar, a map to water sources, sacred pathways for rituals, or landing strips for ancient aliens? The truth is, they might be all of these things, or none of them entirely. It's likely they served multiple purposes that evolved over the centuries they were created and used. What we do know is that they are a profound expression of a culture's relationship with its environment and its cosmos. They represent a worldview where the earth, the sky, and the spiritual realm were intricately connected. The Nazca culture eventually faded, but they left behind this incredible, silent testament to their ingenuity and their faith. Today, the lines face threats from climate change, pollution, and human activity. But thanks to the work of people like Maria Reich and modern conservation efforts, we can still marvel at them. They remind us that there are still so many mysteries left to uncover in our planet's past. The monkey, the spider, and the hummingbird are more than just drawings in the sand. They are symbols of a lost mind, a window into a world that saw the desert not as an empty wasteland, but as a canvas for communicating with the gods. The Nazca culture flourished in this region from around 100 BC to 800 AD. They were a sophisticated society, known for their elaborate textiles and complex ceramics, but they left behind no written language. Their story is told through the artifacts they left behind, and most spectacularly, through these giant lines. To understand how they were made, we have to look at the unique environment of the Nazca Desert. It's one of the driest places on Earth. The ground is covered by a layer of reddish-brown iron oxide-coated pebbles. To create the lines, the Nazca people simply removed this top layer of dark rock, exposing the lighter-colored earth beneath. The extreme lack of rain, wind, and vegetation has preserved these shallow etchings for more than 1,000 years, a fragile testament to an ancient people's vision. The sheer precision is staggering. Some straight lines run for miles without the slightest deviation. The animal figures, like the famous spider, hummingbird, and monkey, are drawn with a single continuous line, never crossing itself. How did they achieve this level of accuracy over such vast distances? One of the most prominent scientific theories suggests the lines were ceremonial pathways. Imagine ancient Nazca people walking these sacred routes in procession, perhaps as part of a ritual to summon water and fertility to this barren land. This idea is supported by the discovery of pottery shards and other artifacts found at the intersections of some lines. The act of walking the line itself would have been a form of prayer, a moving meditation. The figures they depicted: the monkey, a symbol of water and fertility from the distant Amazon; the hummingbird, known for its rapid, energetic flight; the whale, a powerful deity of the sea, were likely important gods or spirits in their cosmology. By tracing their forms upon the earth, the Nazca were perhaps trying to invoke their power, to bring their life-giving attributes to the desert. The lines weren't just art. They were an active part of a spiritual dialogue between the people and their environment. Another compelling scientific explanation views the Nazca Lines as a colossal astronomical observatory. This theory, championed by researchers like Phyllis Pitluga, suggests that many of the lines align with the positions of stars, constellations, and significant celestial events like the summer and winter solstices. For an agricultural society living in a challenging environment, tracking the seasons would have been crucial for survival. An accurate calendar would dictate the timing for planting and harvesting. Could the Nazca Lines have been a giant astronomical calendar, a tool to chart the heavens and predict the changing of the seasons? For example, the famous spider geoglyph has been linked to the constellation Orion, a prominent feature in the night sky. The long, straight lines could have acted as sightlines, pointing to the rising or setting of specific stars on important dates. This would mean the Nazca people had a sophisticated understanding of astronomy and engineering, using the desert floor itself as their celestial map. It transforms the lines from simple drawings into a functional, scientific instrument on an epic scale, a testament to their intellectual achievements. But where mainstream science offers plausible, earthbound explanations, other theories take a much more dramatic leap. In the late 1960s, author Erich von Däniken published his blockbuster book, Chariots of the Gods, which catapulted the Nazca Lines into the realm of ancient astronaut theory. Von Däniken's question was simple and provocative. If the lines can only be seen from the sky, were they meant for someone in the sky? He proposed that the geoglyphs were signals, messages, or even landing strips for extraterrestrial visitors. The long, straight lines, resembling modern airport runways, were interpreted as navigational aids for alien spacecraft. The strange anthropomorphic figures, like the one often called the astronaut, were seen as depictions of these celestial beings. This idea, while dismissed by mainstream archaeologists, captured the public imagination. It painted a picture of a cargo cult scenario where ancient people, having witnessed advanced technology they couldn't understand, tried to replicate it and call back their sky gods by carving these massive symbols into the desert. While there is no physical evidence to support this theory, its romantic and sensational nature ensures it remains a popular part of the Nazca legend. The debate rages on because, ultimately, no single theory can definitively explain all the different types of lines. There are over 800 straight lines, 300 geometric figures, and 70 incredible animal and plant designs. The ceremonial pathway theory explains the animal figures well, but struggles to account for the miles-long straight lines that seem to point to nowhere in particular. The astronomical calendar theory might explain some of the lines and their alignments, but it doesn't apply to all of them, and many of the proposed alignments could simply be coincidental given the sheer number of lines and stars. And as for ancient astronauts, it's a fascinating idea that relies entirely on speculation rather than evidence. The truth is likely a combination of factors. Perhaps the purpose of the lines evolved over the centuries the Nazca culture dominated the region. Maybe some lines were for water rituals, others were for tracking the stars, and others still were clan symbols or maps of underground water sources. This complexity is what makes the Nazca Lines so utterly captivating. They are not a simple puzzle with one easy answer. They are a multifaceted cultural artifact that reflects the complex spiritual, social, and scientific life of an ancient civilization. They represent a monumental effort, a project that would have required the coordinated labor of the entire community over many generations. What belief, what purpose could have been so powerful as to inspire such a colossal undertaking? As we try to decode their meaning, we are forced to look at the world through the eyes of the Nazca people, to imagine a reality where the earth and the sky were inextricably linked, and where drawing on the desert floor was a way to commune with the cosmos. And so the mystery endures. Today, the lines are a UNESCO World Heritage Site, protected but still vulnerable to the passage of time and the encroachment of modern life. Researchers continue to use new technologies like drones and satellite imaging to map the lines in greater detail, discovering new figures and patterns that were previously hidden. Each new discovery adds another piece to the puzzle, but the complete picture remains tantalizingly out of reach. As the sun sets over the Peruvian desert, casting long shadows that dance across the ancient figures, one cannot help but feel a profound sense of awe. The Nazca Lines are more than just drawings in the sand. They are a silent, sprawling message from a lost world. A message whose meaning may be forever whispered on the desert winds. They remind us that there are still great mysteries left on our own planet, wonders that challenge our understanding of the past and ignite our imagination for the future. For centuries, these enormous geoglyphs etched into the desert floor have captivated and puzzled everyone who lays eyes on them. We're talking about hundreds of figures, some stretching over 1,000 feet long, depicting animals, plants, and intricate geometric shapes. They're so massive that you can only truly appreciate them from the sky. Who created them? And more importantly, why? The story of the Nazca Lines begins with the Nazca people, a civilization that flourished in this challenging environment from around 100 BCE to 800 CE. Imagine trying to build a society where water is scarcer than gold. It's an incredible feat of human resilience and ingenuity. The Nazca were master engineers and artists. Their pottery is famous for its vibrant colors and detailed imagery, often depicting the very same figures we see carved into the desert floor. But their greatest challenge, the one that defined their very existence, was the constant struggle for water. In a place where rain is a rare and precious gift, water becomes more than just a resource. It becomes the very center of life, culture, and spirituality. For the Nazca people, every drop was sacred. They developed a sophisticated system of underground aqueducts, known as puquios, to tap into subterranean water sources. Some of these are still in use today, a testament to their incredible engineering skills. But technology alone wasn't enough to guarantee survival. They also turned to the spiritual realm, believing that powerful deities controlled the forces of nature, especially the rain. This deep connection to water is the key to unlocking one of the most compelling theories about the Nazca Lines. What if these giant drawings weren't just art? What if they were a desperate, large-scale prayer, a direct line of communication to the gods? Some archaeologists and researchers believe that the lines were created as part of elaborate religious rituals. The Nazca people would walk along these massive paths, perhaps chanting, dancing, or making offerings in a ceremonial procession designed to appease their deities and summon the life-giving rain. Think about the figures themselves. We see a spider, a monkey, a hummingbird, and a lizard. Many of these animals are associated with water, fertility, and the mountains, which were believed to be the source of rivers. The hummingbird, for example, is often a symbol of life and abundance in Andean cultures. The spider is linked to rain and fertility in many ancient beliefs. Could these giant animal figures have been totems, powerful symbols meant to be seen by the gods looking down from above? It's a fascinating idea. The act of creating and walking these lines would have been a massive community effort, uniting the people in a shared act of faith against the harsh reality of the desert. But how did they do it? How did they create such precise, massive figures without the ability to see them from the air? The technique was surprisingly simple, yet ingenious. The Nazca desert floor is covered with a layer of reddish-brown, iron oxide-coated pebbles. By removing this top layer, they exposed the lighter-colored earth beneath, creating a stark and lasting contrast. They likely used simple tools and stakes with ropes to lay out the designs, starting with small-scale models and then scaling them up with remarkable geometric precision. The extreme dryness and lack of wind and rain have preserved these lines almost perfectly for nearly 2,000 years. It's as if the very climate they were trying to influence became the ultimate guardian of their sacred messages. The ritual theory isn't the only one, of course. Over the years, countless ideas have been proposed. Some have suggested the lines were an astronomical calendar, aligning with stars and solstices to mark important dates for agriculture. Others, more fringe, have even speculated about connections to extraterrestrial visitors, suggesting the lines were landing strips for alien spacecraft. While the alien theory captures the imagination, it lacks any real evidence, and more importantly, it discounts the incredible abilities and intelligence of the Nazca people themselves. The astronomical theory has more weight, as many of the lines do seem to align with celestial events. But it doesn't fully explain the animal figures. This is where modern technology comes in, breathing new life into this ancient mystery. In recent years, scientists and archaeologists have been using drones and satellite imagery to survey the Nazca Plateau, and what they're finding is incredible. They've discovered hundreds of new, smaller, and often fainter geoglyphs, many of which were created by the earlier Paracas and Topara cultures that preceded the Nazca. These newly found figures are often located on hillsides, and were likely meant to be seen from the ground, from villages and pathways below. This suggests that the tradition of creating geoglyphs evolved over time, starting with smaller, more localized symbols and culminating in the gigantic lines the Nazca are famous for. These discoveries are changing our understanding of the line's purpose. It seems it wasn't one single idea, but a practice that developed over 1,000 years. Perhaps the earlier hillside figures were markers for clans or sacred places, while the later, larger lines on the desert floor were indeed part of grand pan-regional rituals focused on water and fertility. Excavations around the lines have also unearthed intriguing clues, like broken pottery at the intersections of geometric shapes, suggesting places where offerings were made. They've also found remains of ceremonial posts, and even a small, mysterious labyrinth-like structure that you could walk through, further supporting the idea of a ritual landscape. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence linking the lines to water comes from the study of a particular geoglyph, the heron. This long-necked bird, over 900 feet long, is depicted with its beak pointing directly towards the rising sun on the winter solstice. In the Andes, the winter solstice marks the beginning of the dry season, a critical time to pray for the return of the rains. The symbolism is powerful. It's a direct visual plea to the heavens, timed perfectly with the celestial clock that governed their agricultural and ritual lives. So, while we may never know the full story with absolute certainty, the picture is becoming clearer. The Nazca Lines were likely not just one thing, but a multifaceted, evolving cultural practice, deeply rooted in the Nazca people's relationship with their environment. They were a map of their cosmos, a calendar, a place of worship, and a desperate, beautiful plea for water etched into the very earth that they depended on. The lines represent a monumental effort by a people to control their destiny, to speak to their gods, and to leave an indelible mark on the world. The mystery of the Nazca Lines is a powerful reminder of the ingenuity and spiritual depth of ancient civilizations. They faced challenges we can barely imagine and responded with art and engineering on a scale that still boggles the mind. As archaeologists continue to peel back the layers of sand and time, each new discovery brings us one step closer to understanding the true purpose of these enigmatic figures. They are more than just lines in the sand. They are a silent, sprawling testament to a people's struggle for survival, and their unwavering faith in the powers that govern the sky and the earth. What do you think? Were the Nazca Lines a giant prayer for rain, an astronomical calendar, or something else entirely? Let me know your theories in the comments below. Thanks for joining me on this journey into one of history's greatest mysteries. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure. See you next time.